Hey, what's going on guys? Haze here for another Zenless Zone Zero video, and with QINGYI being a week away from leaving, I wanted to talk about the short stack that will be replacing her, a member for her own faction, QINGYI aka Anby Power Creep, and if you should summon or if you should skip the hell out of her. As always, pull who you want. This is a suggestion, not an order. Remember to like and subscribe if this video does help you out, and without further ado, let's get into it. QINGYI is an electric stunner belonging to the PubSec faction, and much like her partner in crime, well, crime-stopping partner, one of QINGYI's biggest appeals is that additional ability of hers. This allows her to be used on any team so long as there's someone in the attacker role, which is pretty much going to be the case all the time unless you're using an anomaly/disorder team. This is just like QINGYI's passive where she only needs a support. As for what her passive actually does is, when there is at least one attack type character or a character from the same faction in your squad, basic attacks deal a 20% increased days, and if QINGYI's impact is greater than 120, each point over increases her attack by 6 up to a maximum of 600, meaning that you need a total of 220 impact in order to get the 600 attack buff for QINGYI. This is kind of cool in my opinion because in a way this makes her a stunner that can also do a bit of damage herself while she is on field trying to stun the enemy. A hybrid role if you will. Next, her core passive is a lot to read, so I'll sum it up. Instead of getting a 200% days multiplier like most of the stunners in the game, QINGYI can get up to a 260% days multiplier, giving her the highest one right now in the game. This makes her the best by far when it comes to stunning the enemy and increasing your DPS's damage. QINGYI's value is through the roof, especially if you're like me and your only other stunner is Anby. My current progression in shield defense is currently halted by the fact that I don't have another stunner like Koleda or Lycon, and Anby, my only stunner, is being tugged between QINGYI and Ellen, even though I usually give her to QINGYI and give Ellen the double support with Reina and Sokaku. If I just had another stunner to go on my second team, I'd probably be done with shield defense right now. That's how insane the pull value of QINGYI is in my opinion. Speaking of pulls, let's talk about the banner. Now I'm gonna be straight with you guys, the banner is trash. I'm sorry if you like Bailey and Corrin, but they are just not that good compared to the other characters in the game, and I think the majority of people probably aren't going to use them. This is the main con in pulling for QINGYI that might push some people away. But I think there's another factor that people don't realize that could happen when pulling on this banner. Let's say you're pulling for QINGYI just because you need another stunner like me. Maybe you don't necessarily like her and are just pulling for her role as a stunner. That would mean you only have Anby and no Lycon or Koleda. So God forbid you lose that 50-50 and get one of those two. Did you really lose? It's like you're wishing for 3 characters instead of 1 to get a character in the role that you need. So if you look at it that way, the banner might not be that bad. Just some food for some thought if you're having second thoughts about pulling after seeing that awful banner. Plus, if you do lose and get another stunner, you probably won't be that angry since you get to use her guaranteed on who's next. Now let's talk about the team section. There is no team section. Imagine that. As mentioned earlier, just put her on a team with someone in the attack role and she will work. Just like QINGYI teams, hers is just as free to play with even more flexibility due to her being not a DPS but a stunner instead. She can be slotted on all if not every team currently in the game, with the outlier being of course anomaly teams. Once again, you can still use her on anomaly teams, but her core passive just won't activate. That's how good that additional ability of hers is. But for my QINGYI havers, of course she will be the best in slot stunner on that team. While we're still on the topic of QINGYI teams, let's talk about the upcoming PubSec Bang Boo that also releases with her, that you guys may be interested in if you have both QINGYI and QINGYI. Now, I still think there's no reason to switch from the Rezona Boo if you already have it, unless you don't plan on using Nicole. But if you just want to match the PubSec team, then that is your decision. Next, let's talk about her disc options. Do I really need to tell you that the stun set goes on the stun character? Come on. And as for the 2-piece, usually you have a choice between the anomaly and ER set, but I just give her the ER set since her skill is so good and you might not want to use her with anomaly units anyway. Now that I've provided a bunch of reasons about why you may want to pull for her, let's talk about some reasons why you wouldn't. Starting off with reason 3. If you already have 2 stunners, there's literally no need for an upgrade unless you really want it. Keep in mind, wants, you don't need it. Sure, she is a bigger stun multiplier than the rest, but as long as your current characters are geared and leveled up, you don't need her, especially if you're free to play or out of pulls. Reason number 2, her banner. I've seen it, you've seen it, it should speak for itself. And the final reason, probably the biggest reason, Jane Doe. Right after QINGYI is Jane, so if you wanted to get her, then that would be great for you as well. And since Anby is also on the Jane banner, you can get more copies of her to make her a bit better to compensate for your missing QINGYI if you don't decide on pulling. Alright guys, that's it for this video. Hopefully I helped you guys come to a decision, and tell me in the comments if you're pulling for her, waiting for Jane, or skipping them both. As always, remember to like and subscribe as it does help my channel out a lot. This was Haze, keeping enjoying Zenless. Peace.